To be honest, I wasn't sure what to think about it. The writing made me feel something deep inside. Joaquin Phoenix is the most rigorous actor in movies. He is a volcanic talent whose dedication to real emotional truth has pushed the limits of method acting. Phoenix plays every part with the same monastic intensity, which demands complete honesty from both himself and the people who work with him. This includes his raw vulnerability in Her, and his transformational descent into madness in Joker. His fame in Hollywood goes far beyond the great roles he has played. Phoenix works with the accuracy of a spiritual seeker because she sees acting as holy work that needs her full attention to psychological truth. Some of the most memorable characters in current movies were made with this high standard in mind. But it has also led to explosive fights with co-stars who don't treat the craft with as much respect. People who work in the entertainment business have seen Phoenix's philosophical fights when his artistic vision meets what he sees as shallow star performance. These weren't just differences over personalities, they were deep-seated disagreements about the role and purpose of dramatic art. His problems show how different artists' views are. Some see their job as a spiritual calling, while others see it as just a job. Phoenix's disagreements show that he believes movies can reveal deep human truths, but only if people who make them are brave enough and dedicated to being true to themselves. 6th, Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling and Joaquin Phoenix have a philosophical disagreement because they have very different ideas about how to show feeling on screen. Phoenix wants every performance to be honest and open, but Gosling's cool detachment and controlled restraint are everything that Phoenix thinks is fake about current Hollywood acting. Their different approaches were clear at events for the industry, where Phoenix complained about what he called performance as aesthetic choice rather than emotional necessity. Director Derek C. France, who has worked with Gosling a lot, said that Ryan's controlled method seems emotionally dishonest to Joaquin, while Ryan thinks Joaquin's intensity is just an act. People who work in the industry knew what he was talking about when he said it was about artists who put style consistency ahead of emotional truth. The philosophical gap grew when Phoenix saw how Gosling handled love scenes in different movies. Phoenix wanted her scene partners to be emotionally available all the time, but Phoenix thought Gosling's more planned approach to closeness was fundamentally dishonest to the creative process of working together. Their inability to get along shows a bigger problem in modern acting. There are people who are willing to be completely vulnerable, and people who keep an artistic distance to protect themselves. As usual for Phoenix, his evaluation was frank. If someone cares more about looking cool than being real, they should not work in that field. Bryan Cranston. Joaquin Phoenix's dislike for Bradley Cooper grew when Cooper switched from playing to directing, representing what Phoenix sees as the dangerous mix of unchecked ego and not enough artistic planning. Cooper's more business-minded view of making movies and Phoenix's more idealistic view of working together are at odds with each other. During award season events where Phoenix saw Cooper's attempts to promote himself with obvious dislike, the tension became clear. Bradley is a bad example of everything that is wrong with the way celebrities act in the business. Phoenix told a friend who works as a writer that he didn't like how Cooper always put himself at the center of creative discussions instead of serving the material. Phoenix is annoyed by Cooper's plans to become a director because he thinks that making a great movie takes years of hard work and not just using star power to get creative control. People who work in the industry took note of Phoenix's pointed comments about actors who think that being famous means they are qualified to make artistic choices. Their intellectual differences were most clear when Cooper's A Star Is Born got a lot of praise, even though Phoenix thought it was too light on emotional depth. Phoenix had high standards for serious theatrical work, and Cooper's focus on crowd-pleasing moments over psychological realism went against them. When Cooper started getting offers to direct movies that Phoenix thought should go to more experienced directors, the fight got worse. Everyone loses when fame is valued more than skill in the business world. Phoenix said on a panel at a film festival that his criticism was clearly aimed at actor-directors who put making money ahead of having an artistic vision. Phoenix's opinion of Cooper showed how worried he was about the way power works in Hollywood in general. Some people want to be bosses more than they want to be honest artists. Chris Pratt. Joaquin Phoenix doesn't like Chris Pratt, and that shows how much he doesn't like stars who give up their artistic integrity to make money in franchise movies. Pratt's rise from supporting actor to action star is a perfect example of how Phoenix thinks Hollywood's business pressures on serious performers are warping. It became clear that they had different political views when Pratt's career shifted from difficult drama to popular blockbuster movies. Phoenix has said many times that actors who choose money over important work are bad actors, though people who work in the business understand how frustrated he is with Pratt's artistic choices. The philosophical difference is over whether Pratt is ready to put character development behind the needs of the franchise. Phoenix wants full creative freedom to explore the complexities of the mind, while Pratt's willingness to work within the limits of the studio offends Phoenix because it means giving up on art. Phoenix also has negative things to say about Pratt's public persona, which he thinks is carefully made up instead of being truly shared. Some actors don't disappear into their parts, instead they make characters out of themselves. During a class on method acting, Phoenix made a clear reference to Pratt's image as being good with the media. Their disagreement got worse when Phoenix started to praise acts that he thought were cheap and meant to make money. Phoenix's belief that Hollywood awards mediocrity over artistic courage was strengthened by the fact that the industry praised Pratt's likability over her dramatic depth. Phoenix's evaluation was still as tough as usual. When actors become brands instead of artists, they stop sharing the truth, which is an important part of good storytelling. 3. Joaquin Will Smith. Phoenix's dislike of Will Smith shows how deeply frustrated he is with performers who put crowd approval ahead of artistic integrity. Smith has spent his whole career trying to be liked and make money, which goes against Phoenix's idea that great acting means being ready to be disliked or misunderstood. They had a philosophical disagreement when they talked about dramatic range in the business. Phoenix was worried about artists who wouldn't face uncomfortable truths about human nature. Phoenix thought Smith wasn't being psychologically honest because he kept up heroic personas even in dramatic parts. The stress comes from Smith's careful choice of roles, picking projects that make his public image better instead of ones that make it worse. Phoenix thinks this approach is artistic weakness that keeps the characters from being truly explored. Some artists care more about being liked than telling the truth. Phoenix said during a dramatic art symposium that his criticism got worse when Smith started winning Oscars for his acts. Phoenix was thought to be emotionally safe and highly predictable. Phoenix was more sure than ever that Hollywood values comfort over conflict because of how much the industry praised Smith's inspirational figures. Their inability to get along became most clear when Smith's personal problems showed what Phoenix saw as his real personality finally coming out from behind a carefully put-together front. Phoenix told his close co-workers that people forget who they really are after years of acting like they are. Phoenix's review showed how he felt about how star culture affected the quality of art in a wider sense. To be a great actor, you have to destroy your ego, not keep it safe. Mark Wahlberg. The fight between Joaquin Phoenix and Mark Wahlberg comes from Phoenix's dislike of actors who depend on limited personas instead of developing real range. Phoenix finds it boring when actors think that repetition means they are reliable, and Wahlberg's constant tough guy roles are a good example of this. When Phoenix watched how Wahlberg handled dramatic scenes that needed him to be vulnerable, it was clear that they had different political views. Some artists never show how strong they really are because they're afraid of looking weak. Phoenix told Film Quarterly in an honest interview that his criticism was clearly aimed at actors who mistake bravado for dramatic power. The philosophical disagreement is about Wahlberg's reluctance to show all of her emotions in parts that require a lot of mental depth. Wahlberg's protective barriers stop the kind of raw honesty that Phoenix thinks is necessary for serious dramatic work. Phoenix, on the other hand, sees full vulnerability as necessary for authentic acting. Wahlberg's public judgment that method acting tactics are pretentious or pointless makes Phoenix even more angry. When someone makes fun of the tools that make real performance possible, they show how limited their creativity is. Phoenix said this in a masterclass on getting ready for a play. Their fight got worse when Wahlberg started getting producer credits and creative power over projects that Phoenix thought needed a more complex artistic vision. Phoenix's worries about Hollywood's priorities were fueled by the fact that the industry was ready to reward Wahlberg's business sense over dramatic depth. Phoenix's evaluation stayed as straight as usual. To be truly tough, you have to be willing to show your wounds and not hide them behind your muscles and attitude. Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is the professional person Joaquin Phoenix dislikes the most because he is always trying to be physically beautiful and make people happy, which is the exact opposite of Phoenix's commitment to being psychologically real. Their fight shows the basic conflict between making movies for money and making movies for art's sake. The psychological argument is about Cruise's way of developing characters, which Phoenix sees as more like acting than really living with them. Phoenix said on a panel at the Venice Film Festival that some actors mix up emotional training with physical preparation. It was clear that his judgment was aimed at Cruise's focus on stunts over psychological depth. Phoenix's anger toward Cruise grew when she saw how controlling he was when making movies with other people. Phoenix wants creative equality with directors and other actors, but Cruise's job as a producer and star power creates hierarchies that Phoenix thinks are bad for real art. Their ideological differences became most clear when Cruise's Scientology beliefs started to affect his work relationships and public comments. Phoenix thought Cruise's strict beliefs were incompatible with the psychological flexibility needed for serious theatrical work. Phoenix values intellectual honesty and emotional openness. The clash got worse when Cruise's continued box office success showed that Hollywood values spectacle over substance. Phoenix saw every big hit from Cruise as proof that the industry was ready to value empty pleasure over deep artistic expression. Phoenix's final judgment showed how deeply he believed in acting with divine purpose. Anyone who makes movies like a business instead of an art form betrays everyone who thinks movies can change lives. Joaquin Phoenix's artistic disagreements show that he is a tough actor who expects others and himself to be completely honest about our feelings. He wasn't fighting over personal grudges, he was fighting for honest artistic expression over business sense. These battles teach us that bravery is needed to make great art, to turn down easy fame in favor of hard truth. Sign up to learn more about the creative wars in Hollywood.